Hello everyone. I'm glad to see you on my channel. The story I'm going to tell you today is pure. It is true that all the bad things that happen in life happen for a reason. It is said that we can appreciate the good things, the things when they happen to us. I hope you enjoyed this story. I wish you a pleasant viewing experience. Two sturdy boys from the station held the half-drunk vagrant who screamed in pain and wriggled, spewing curses, while Diana gave him first aid, treated the wound, and sniffed ammonia. She was soaking wet. She felt sick to her stomach at the horrible stench the homeless man was giving off. At last the job was done. The woman washed her hands long and thoroughly, taking off her gloves, and sat down tiredly on the couch, thinking to herself, "What a job! One would not wish the enemy to bring to consciousness the alcoholics and the sobering up. It was my own fault, and I deserved it. I shouldn't have crossed the road with rich people. I'm so sick of everything. Where's the justice in Diana?" She had recently been transferred to this hard labor job as punishment for one incident. Before that, Diana had worked as an ambulance doctor. She was loved and respected. The staff was excellent, just a friendly team. Everyone valued the doctor for his golden hands. She knew the symptoms of diseases by heart, unmistakably diagnosed, and more than once pulled the patient literally from that Diane in a matter of seconds. After all, the ambulance is usually called at critical moments. And here it is important to quickly orient yourself in the situation, not to get confused and correctly provide first aid. Diana remembered, as she does now, every detail of that unfortunate call. The shift was in full swing. There were a lot of calls, and she was alone with the driver. The nurse, Katerina, was on sick leave. As they drove to the next call, Diane could not think what was waiting for her. The dispatcher reported that a man in a mansion in an upscale neighborhood became ill. For all intents and purposes, a hypertensive crisis. In such cases, time is of the essence, and it is important to provide first aid as quickly as possible. As a sin, the driver, Michael, was left outside. The engine was acting up again. The car needed to be tidied up. But when the doctor entered the posh mansion, the owner himself came out to meet her. The rich man looked to be in his 50s, a stout, unpleasant fellow with small, greasy, running eyes. He was alive and in good health, and was sipping an expensive brandy from his glass. The man saw a very beautiful woman, doctor, and whistled, "Wow, now that's a gorgeous present. She's a beauty. I can't take my eyes off her. Look at the kind of people John has at the hospital. Good afternoon, lovely creature. Are you here to treat me? I'm all yours. I'm burning with love. I'm even running a fever." Diana answered with irritation, "I see you're feeling pretty good. So we'll make a false call. Why are you running people over for nothing? Maybe someone really needs emergency care at this moment." The businessman suddenly walked up to her and began unceremoniously touching her shoulders, then began to press against her and whisper, "Let's relax, chick. Don't be stubborn. It'll only take 10 minutes. I won't hurt you. I'll pay you generously. You got me so turned on. It's been a long time since I wanted a woman so badly. I've never been with a real doctor before. I've always dreamed of it." It was unheard of. Diana began to scream and fight back, but the rascal went on molesting her, now kissing her, breathing alcohol right in her face. In her work, of course, all sorts of things happened. There were patients who were not quite adequate, but that's just it. The woman, in a frenzy, pushed the scoundrel and ran out into the corridor. He rushed after her and managed to put his foot under the door, which Diane tried to close. The inadequate man grabbed her tightly by the arm and pinned her in a corner. There was a bucket of dirty water by the window. An elderly housekeeper was just mopping the floors. Diane, unaware of her shock, lashed out and poured the slop on the rich man with a swing. Strangely enough, it worked, and he froze, ducking and cursing foully. The doctor did not wait to continue, and ran out of the mansion, I scolded, almost forgetting the orange suitcase with the drugs. She jumped into the car and shouted to the chauffeur, "Michael, let's get the hell out of here." "Well, now," I said now. After the second time, the ambulance somehow started up and began to rapidly gain speed. The driver looked at the doctor in a daze and did not understand anything. He had never seen her in such a state. The woman was sobbing. Her mascara was dripping. The sleeves of her uniform were wet through, and her hair was disheveled. He even opened his mouth. "God, Diane, what happened? Did you have a violent patient? Or maybe he's insane. Shouldn't we go and calm him down? So tell me what happened." The doctor drank water from a plastic bottle, calmed down a bit, and began to talk. "Yes, he's definitely crazy. He's a maniac. He didn't have a crisis. He just got drunk and mistook the ambulance for the call girls. He started hitting on me, so I had to slop him off to talk some sense into him. What a nightmare. I remember how disgusting it is. You go thinking that the person is dying, and he behaves so rudely." Michael rounded his eyes. "What a bastard. What a bastard. The earth bears such things, but I can't imagine there'll be much trouble now. It's the millionaire Luck himself. They say he's built his business on the backstreet casinos and brothels in every neighborhood. He's got his own people all over the city. Oh, I'm worried, Diana. Maybe he'll sleep it off." Semyon was right in the middle of it. The millionaire was terribly angry at the obstinate woman. His hurt feelings. He was pelted with slop by some common woman. Who does she think she is? No one dares refuse him. He was on friendly terms with the doctor in charge, had once lent him a large sum of money, and of course he demanded that he punish the swollen doctor. Everyone knew it was better not to quarrel with Lokium. It would be more expensive. So the woman was summoned to the carpet at once. She tried to explain why she had sloped all over the patient. She said he had molested her and wanted intimacy. But no one even listened to Diana's excuses. They wanted to throw her out with a ticket to the wolf and already signed the order in the personnel department. But then the millionaire came up with another punishment for her. She was to be transferred to the sobering up station as a nurse. He rejoiced. Let this bimbo now be with the stinking bums. What a prude. That'll teach her a lesson for life. She'll remember me more than once, and I'll make sure they don't take this chick anywhere else. The whole substation was on its ears. How is it that the best, most promising and irreplaceable doctor and an excellent specialist was demoted to an ordinary nurse? Colleagues even wrote a petition asking for the return of a valuable employee, but the boss tore it up and told everyone to go back to their jobs, unless they wanted to be found guilty of any wrongdoing. From that day on, Diana's life began to change. In the morning, she had absolutely no desire to go to the detox center. She couldn't stand it. But what could she do? She had to live for something. So she went like a hard laborer. Nevertheless, she did her job to the best of her ability. Diana could not do anything wrong, even when it came to the homeless. Today, at the end of her shift, she wanted to run to the shower because the smell was so bad and pervasive. She looked at herself in the mirror and suddenly burst into tears. Somehow she felt such sadness. The woman began to reblog in her memory all her happy and unhappy episodes, like frames in a movie. Diana's mother, Elizabeth, had a daughter with a visiting construction worker. She had been a bad girl since she was young. The woman didn't want a child at all. But she had been careless and had to have the baby. Taking care of her daughter, nightly cries, diapers, and feedings quickly bored Elizaveta. She wanted, as before, love, fun, and most importantly, freedom. So one day she brought the baby to her mother, an elderly woman, Vivara, with the words, "Mommy, here's the thing, I have to go away for a while. It's urgent. Will you stay with Diana? Don't be angry, I won't be long." That way and back, Mom frowned, sensing something was wrong. "I know your business. I bet you've been fooling around with someone else again." Jesus, Elizabeth, when are you going to settle down? You've just given birth, and already you're running off like that cat. You're a mother. Look, it won't be long. Don't forget whose child it is. You didn't give birth to me. You gave birth to yourself. I'm an old man, and I don't need any babies. Do you have a conscience? The daughter waved goodbye and left with a suitcase. Only not for a while, as she had promised, but for good. And Diana stayed to live with her grandmother. At first, the negligent mother occasionally sent some money and birthday presents to her daughter. But after a couple of years, she stopped doing that too. Even though Varvara grumbled all the time, it was hard for her to support her granddaughter on her pension alone. She had to work part-time and scrub the floors in her old age. But she loved Diana very much nevertheless. She was nothing like her daughter. Entirely God, neither in appearance nor in character. Moreover, she grew up to be a very kind, obedient, and no-problem girl. The granddaughter gravitated toward medicine from an early age, playing at the hospital, taking her grandmother's blood pressure. Her beloved grandmother was everything to Diana. She was a mother and a father, a friend and an advisor. So when she was sick, the girl was very nervous, hoping that she would live a long time. However, the old lady's health kept deteriorating. The years and hard work took their toll. She got sicker and weaker, and just before Diana's graduation, she died. It was a terrible loss for the girl. Her grandmother had been the closest person to her, and now she was a complete orphan, alone in the world. Neighbors helped the orphan with the funeral. The whole village collected money, but saw Varvara off to her last journey, as befits, all in honor. Then they were able to sell their grandmother's house and land and buy a small room in the capital. Aunt Clava mourned and taught Diana, "You're a good girl, smart, beautiful. There's nothing for you to do here. Go to town. There's a roof over your head, you won't get lost. Be a good girl and think of us with a kind word. God bless you." After high school, Diana easily entered medical school and upon graduation, medical university. The girl grew up to be a beauty. Her face blue eyes with a twist, a gorgeous mop of hair, languid and sensual lips, and a ladylike figure without a single flaw. Without exception, all the guys and grown men turned their heads after her. She became accustomed to the increased attention to herself and drove away all womanizers and lovers as she believed in true love and was waiting for it. Diana read women's novels and wanted it to happen to her too, once and for all her life. She remembered her grandmother's words well too. "Granddaughter, you remember what happened to your mother. Don't repeat her fate. Take care of your honor when you're young." Studying was easy for Diana, but surviving on her own, without anyone's support, was very difficult. She saved as much as she could, working as a night nurse on the wards, at least to have enough to eat. She would buy a loaf of bread and a bottle of kefan and divide it all up for a couple of days. The kind-hearted women in the kitchen took pity on the orphan and often called her in for a free lunch, or left her a free lunch, or left her a free meal for dinner. Obviously, with such a heavy workload, she had no time for fun. She was either studying, moonlighting, or sleeping it off after a hard day. Her classmates were perplexed, thought her blissful, and often reprimanded her. "Dianka, you're such an idiot. With your looks and data, money can float into your hands, and you're pushing like a seven-legged woman. Find yourself a richer fiancé and make a rope out of him. That's all. All the men in Diana are drooling over you. Where's the justice in that? You spend 2 hours putting on makeup to get noticed, and a man is a natural, and he doesn't take advantage of it." The girl just shrugged it off and sincerely did not understand her girlfriends. How can you trade in your beauty? What about love and feelings? Is it a bargaining chip? After all, if you love, then one unto the end? And romance? She thought many times, no way. I'd rather wait for my soulmate. After graduation, she was happy to be hired as a general practitioner and soon she herself transferred to the emergency room. She loved her job, literally looked forward to every shift because helping people was her calling, no matter how much, and soon something happened that changed her life completely. That morning, she had already turned in her shift and was on her way home when suddenly she witnessed a street fight. 3 hooligans attacked the man and tried to steal from him, but he was no shy and began to defend himself. A scuffle ensued. Eventually, a passerby called the police to disperse the hooligans, and the man was left lying on the roadway. He was writhing and holding onto his arm. A crimson stain began to blur on his jacket. Diane thought of nothing else, ran up to the stranger and began to give him clear and professional first aid. She skillfully stopped the bleeding and applied a bandage, then commanded, "I'm going to call the ambulance. Don't bend your arm at the elbow yet." She called an ambulance, waited for the crew to arrive, and only when the man was loaded onto a stretcher did she turn to him. "Don't worry. The wound is shallow. It's just a vessel. That's why it's bleeding a lot. The wound will be stitched up and released. Everything will be all right." The young man suddenly began to babble. "How beautiful you are. Thank you. You saved my life. As a token of my gratitude, let me take you out to dinner. You can have any restaurant you want." "When would you like it?" The ambulance workers laughed out loud. Now his life is definitely not in danger. He's lying on a stretcher and still making a date. Diana wanted to refuse out of politeness, but then she thought, why not? She didn't want to spend another evening alone. Why not go out for a while? So she said yes and wrote her phone number on a piece of paper. Toward evening, the long-awaited call sounded, and the girl's heart fluttered when she heard the pleasant baritone. "Good evening, my savior. My name is Oliver. So when and what time should I pick you up, beautiful princess?" The girl blossomed. "Thank you for the compliment. I'm Diana. How are you feeling?" "Fine. I treated the wound, stitched it up, and sent me home." "Give me 9 o'clock then. Write down the address." Diane put on her red dress for the weekend and spent a long time in the mirror pretending. At exactly 9 o'clock at night, minute to minute, the doorbell rang. The girl opened the door and was stunned. On the doorstep stood Oliver, in an expensive suit, with a gorgeous bouquet of flowers. He smiled charmingly and said, "To the most beautiful, my savior, you just captivated me with your beauty. The color red suits you. I'm not a girl, I'm a looker. I'll be the envy of the restaurant." The evening was just great. Diana was amazed. She had never been to an establishment of this caliber before. When Oliver ordered oysters, the girl was embarrassed and decided not to eat so as not to embarrass herself. But to her surprise, Oliver tactfully and unobtrusively explained what to do, and she fully enjoyed this insanely delicious delicacy. A glass of wine went to her head. Everything seemed so fairy tale and unreal, as if she had got to the ball, like Cinderella, and there was a beautiful prince beside her. Time flew by like a second. It was time to go home. Oliver took her home and gently kissed her on the cheek. Diane melted. She was so pleased by his touch, like a whiff of a light breeze. And then on her lips and whispered passionately, "You're the best girl in the whole universe. I want you so much to be mine. You're so sweet I could just eat you up." He began to kiss her so skillfully that all of her grandmother's attitudes and precepts went to hell. Diana no longer belonged to herself, and she swirled in a whirlpool of passion, climbing to the top of her pleasure. They woke up in the same bed, but the girl regretted nothing. She had never felt so good. Their romance spun with mad passion. Oliver became the first man of Diana, but she did not regret it at all, because she completely lost her mind with love. One thing that strained her a little was that their meetings weren't as frequent as she would have liked. A fiancé wasn't in a hurry to introduce her to his friends or family. She asked Oliver why, but he kept finding excuses. He had too much work, too much time, or her parents were away on vacation. She should have been alert in time, but no, Rose. colored glasses made her see everything in a different, positive, and happy Diane. Everything was going great until Diane started noticing some alarm bells. Nausea, vomiting in the morning, and a strong excessive appetite. She was a physician, so she guessed right away that it was pregnancy. But just in case, she went to the gynecologist, and she confirmed her fears. The woman was unspeakably happy. Hooray, now we're going to get married for sure. I'd better tell Oliver soon. He'll be so happy. Diane had barely worked a shift. She couldn't wait to tell her fiancé the amazing news. Even though they didn't have a date that day, she called him herself. Cute, hi. I missed you so much. Come quickly, I have stunning news for you. To her surprise, the man answered quietly, dryly, and unilaterally, as if he were talking to a stranger. Listen, I told you not to call unannounced. I'm busy, but if it's super urgent, I'll be there. I'll be there in an hour. Bye. 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 The girl was even a little offended. Strange. Why is he like that? Maybe there really is a meeting? But she immediately remembered the baby, forgot the grudge, and ran to prepare dinner to please her beloved Tasty. Oliver walked into the kitchen and was greatly surprised. The table was full of treats, and a blooming Diana was sitting in the center, smiling. The man kissed the woman and asked, "Well, tell me, why are you shining like a polished samovar? Did you win the lottery? Or did you get a promotion?" Diane gibbered. "No, you didn't. Even better, sweetheart, you're gonna be a daddy. I'm pregnant. I'm 8 weeks pregnant. I'm so happy that I couldn't wait until our date. I'm so happy that I couldn't wait until our date. I'm sorry. I wanted to be happy early." Oliver's face changed dramatically, and he turned white as a sheet. He was silent for a long time, digesting the information. Then he said quietly, "Yeah, you made me happy. You can't tell, Diane. You have to have an abortion. I'll arrange it. You won't feel a thing. You'll be anesthetized. It'll pass in time, don't worry." The woman was dumbfounded and tears welled up in her eyes. She could not believe what she was hearing. "Oh, Oliver, my love, what are you saying? What do you mean, don't worry? I don't want an abortion. It's our baby, yours and mine. It's already there. It's alive. Are you suggesting that I kill it? Why? Why? You said you loved me, how could I?" The man looked away, sighed, and answered, "I'm sorry, but I have a fiancée. She's the judge's daughter, and we're going to be married soon. That's the way it happened. I'm sorry. It's probably my fault. I should have been more careful, but I was sure you were safe." Diana was hysterical, screaming and raising her voice. "The bride. Who am I then? Tell me. Why did you lie to me? You called me your beloved, your only beloved. I thought you really loved me. I thought you really loved me. I waited for us to get married. And you." Oliver suddenly became agitated too. "I'm a rich man, a businessman. What would they think of me if I married an orphan doctor? My parents won't accept you anyway. Aren't you unhappy with me? Don't be stubborn. Do as I say, and everything will be as it was before. Do you want me to buy you a gold bracelet or an expensive dress as moral compensation?" Diane slapped him in the face and screamed, "Get out! Out of my apartment and out of my life. I don't want anything from you. I'll have and raise my own child. Understand, you bastard." Oliver only rubbed his cheek and shrugged his shoulders in detachment. "Whatever. It's your choice. But I had nothing to do with that child. And don't you dare blackmail me with it." He slammed the door and left, carelessly tossing the keys and a couple of large bills on the nightstand. As a mockery, Diana sobbed and howled and rolled on the floor. She threw plates off the table and tore the money into little shreds. The pain and resentment burned her soul as if by heat. She screamed, "How could he? Why?" It turns out that I am nothing to him, a pacifier, A girl to please. How painful and disgusting. God. Since that black day, Diana had not lived. She had existed. But despite everything, she longed for her beloved. She saw him in literally every passerby. Pregnancy was very difficult, and the nervous stress aggravated this condition. She vomited all the time, her lower abdomen hurt, and now serving her shift was a feat for her. But she endured all the hardships as she dreamed of having a baby. After all, it was her and Oliver's little blood. Diana waited and hoped that when Oliver saw the baby, he would melt, and they would make up, in spite of the fact that her lover was a perfect scoundrel. She longed for him desperately, remembering the happy moments of their meeting. But, unfortunately, it ended tragically. At 16 weeks, right on her shift, Diana had a bleeding disorder. They took her to the ward, and the doctors fought for her life for a long time. Unfortunately, the baby could not be saved. She miscarried. She was either crying or just lying in her room, turned against the wall, not eating anything at all. The nurses felt sorry for her, as they were colleagues, and tried to comfort her as best they could. They did not tell her the whole truth so as not to hurt her. But one day she did overhear a conversation about herself on her way out of the treatment room. Her attending physician, Dexter, was talking quietly in the hallway with the nurse. Inna. Oh, I feel so sorry for our emergency doctor, Dianochka. I can't believe it. It breaks my heart to look at her. And why did she have to go through all this? And the man turned out to be a bastard. He left her pregnant. She lost her child. Dexter sighed. I have an obligation to tell her the awful truth as a doctor when she is discharged. But how do I do that? How do you tell a grief-stricken woman who has had a miscarriage that she will probably never have children again? I can't talk. It's all nerves. Diana went pale, howled longingly, and floated on the wall. She woke up in her room. Inachka shoved ammonia under her nose and wailed, Oh, Diana, I'm sorry. It's my big mouth. I should have kept my mouth shut. Well, don't look so disappointed. You can get a baby from a shelter. A lot of people do that. You have to move on with your life. I'm so sorry to hear that. But the woman answered nothing, turned back against the wall and wept silently, shaking her frail shoulders. Inside her was a scorched field, a black hole and emptiness. Everything had collapsed in an instant, collapsed like a house of cards. And why did she need that damn beauty if it brought nothing but misery? However, life was not standing still, and day by day, Diana was slowly coming to her senses, giving all her strength to help people. It was like a salvation for her, so the days flew by faster, and she had no time to mope. But after that nightmare adventure with Locke's molestation, she had lost the last thing she loved, her job. It was as if some evil fate was hanging over her, and one misfortune after another. She kept thinking, what good is my existence? No joy in life, no prodinium. Well, what was the point of it? No husband, no child, no one. Maybe I should take a baby from the orphanage. At least there will be someone to give me a glass of water at my old age. In such gloomy thoughts, she woke up almost a Raiden and never slept a wink. On the next shift, she again failed to work properly. In addition to all the usual charms of the detox center in the form of homeless people and alcoholics, whom she brought to her senses, an emergency happened late at night. It had long since fallen dark outside. The sobering up patients had calmed down, and the woman thought she could relax and drink some tea. But suddenly she heard someone wandering and screaming under the window. Help, good people. Open up. A homeless man knocked on the door of the detox center, holding a bleeding, wounded man in his arms and begging pitifully, Sister, don't drive. Help me. I'm not asking for myself. There I'm walking, and 4 men are beating him. Barely fought him off. He's not homeless. His clothes are clean and expensive. I have no money. But the hospital has to help everyone. Diana immediately answered without hesitation. Of course, bring him in. Put him on the couch. Don't worry, I'm a doctor and I'll help your friend. Go. I'll get in trouble. It's not a hospital. It's a sobering place. The tramp started backing away and apologizing. Oh, I didn't see it right. I got it wrong. I'm sorry. Just don't report me to the police. I can't go there. I have my past sins. Thank you. I hope you'll be all right. I'm so sorry for the man. The doctor closed the door behind the tramp and began to attend to the wounded man, scolding herself as best she could. What kind of a character am I? I've been exiled as it is. And how will they know that I'm here without asking for treatment? Call an ambulance and the police, on the sensible way, and do not play with my head. But no, I have to make more trouble for myself. Diana undressed and examined the patient. There was not a living thing on him. There were bruises and abrasions all over his body, and a puncture wound on his chest. A little more and into the heart. She treated the wound and began stitching. The man gritted his teeth and groaned, even though she had given him an injection of pain medication. The doctor carefully examined and palpated the patient. Well, his ribs don't seem to be broken. His arm bones are intact too. There were signs of a severe concussion. He needs an IV, but how well built he is. He's like an Apollo. You can tell he takes care of himself, and judging by his self, and judging by his care of himself, and judging by his expensive brand clothes, he's not poor. The doctor spent the whole morning with the troubled patient and never slept a wink. Soon there was another knock at the window. Exhausted and tired woman went to open it, shrieking. Who the hell else is it? It's a hard labor, not a shift. When am I going to get home? But to her surprise, a glossy and expensively dressed older man with a mustache and a beard of hair came into the sobering up room, begging the doctor, "Tell me, did my son come to you at night? Here's a picture. I'm looking for him. I found an abandoned car, and on the surveillance cameras I saw him being attacked by some thugs. Then a homeless guy picked my son up and took him somewhere. I couldn't see any further. So I thought, it's a long way to the hospital. He wouldn't have carried him. Maybe he came to see you." Diane looked at the photo and of course recognized her patient and nodded. "Come in, there he is. Some vagrant brought him in last night and begged me to save him. And even though I'm just a nurse here, I'm a doctor myself, so I helped. But of course he needs to go to the hospital for examination. He has a concussion, and the wound will take a long time to heal." The older man grabbed her hands and started kissing them, wailing, "God, thank you. You have a kind and responsive heart. Do you even know who you saved? Did you hear about the businessman, the Vassilivers? Well, that's my son, Charlie. He's the head of the corporation. I'll make you rich. Anything you want. I'll grant any wish." Diana jerked her hand away. "I don't need anything. Especially since I don't work out with millionaires. Your son was saved by a bum, a funny guy in a striped hat like Santa Claus. So you can thank him. And I was just doing my job. I don't care if I'm a millionaire or a bum. I owe it to anyone to save his life. I took the Hippocratic oath." The elderly businessman took his son away, and a tired Diana staggered home, unable to feel her arms or legs. She didn't even want to eat, took a shower, and fell into a dead sleep until evening. A couple of weeks went by. Diane worked on her usual schedule, still going to her hateful job through sheer force, and remembering how good it had been to be an ambulance crew. Suddenly, a fancy car pulled up to the sobering up station, and an expensive dressed young man, the same one she had recently helped, got out and approached her. "Hello, my savior. Not only do you have a kind, responsive heart, you are also an insanely beautiful woman. These flowers are for you. Take them. They're from the heart. My name is Scene. What's yours?" Diane was pleased. She even flushed, and the patrolman who brought in another drunken client even whistled. "Wow, finally, Diane, your work is appreciated." She babbled, "Thank you, very nice. How are you? Have you recovered? You look great." Any nausea? Any dizziness? Cian smiled. It's okay, don't worry. Your golden hands worked a miracle. The wound healed very quickly and without complications. Diana, I have great news for you. I did some research about why a doctor of God works in a detox center, because it is clear that you do not belong here. And I found out who had a hand in it. Well, as of today, a new chief physician has been appointed, and you are being returned to your former position, for which I am personally very happy. Also, my father found the tramp who saved me and carried me to the drunk tank. It turned out that Justin was a very decent man, a former teacher. He just had such a complicated fate. The son turned out to be dysfunctional, and by fraudulent means left his own father on the street. So now he's not a vagrant. He works at our mansion as a gardener and gets a decent wage. Diana couldn't get over the shock and kept repeating, "Is it true? I'm going back to the substation? That's the best news I've heard in a while. Thank you, Cian." "So how come you were attacked? Did you find the bandits?" Cian replied, "I was on my way to negotiations. There was a meeting at a restaurant. On the way, I stopped to buy a bouquet. There was a woman in the delegation, as a sign of respect. As soon as I stepped back, these youngsters ran up behind me and started, 'Give me a cigarette,' and then the fight started, just like in the classics. I fought back at first, but there were 3 of them, and I was alone. And then one of the scoundrels took out a knife and started waving it in my face. And then you know what happened. I blacked out, and that was it. I woke up and saw such a beautiful angel in a white coat. I thought I'd gone to heaven. They haven't found the bandits yet, but my father's working on it. Hopefully justice will be served, and they will get what they deserve." The doctor smiled. "Well, Charlie God that everything ended well. Good for you. Get well and take care of yourself." The man only lowered his eye and timidly offered, "Excuse me, Diana, but may I invite you to join my father and me for dinner as a thank you? Don't think anything bad. We are decent people. I just like you as a person and as a woman, and I'd like to talk to you again. There's turkey and delicious salads on the program." It was like déjà vu. The situation was repeating exactly what it had been with Oliver. It was like an obsession. Diana wondered if she should go. After all, these rich people were nothing but misfortune in her life. The last time it had not ended well. But for some reason, Cian, like his father, seemed very nice people, and she decided was not, I will agree, especially since thanks to them, she got her old job back. Dinner was scheduled for Saturday. The whole time Diana had been feeling uneasy, remembering Locke, the rascal who had caused her so much grief, and Oliver, the scoundrel who was also a rich gentleman. She subconsciously waited for a catch. After all she had gone through, she had a stereotype in her head that all rich men were scoundrels. They did not obey the law, they had no conscience, and did not care about the feelings of others. That was why she was greatly worried when she took a cab to the mansion. But the door was opened by a pretty little girl about 7 years old, and kindly invited her. "Hello. We're waiting for you. Come on in. My name is Anna. Did you save my daddy? He told me everything." "Thank you. I was so worried about him." Diana spluttered her hands. "I'm Diana. If I had known such a princess lived here, I would have bought you a present. But all I did was bake you a delicious cake and meringue you." The girl smiled. "Wow, I love cakes, thank you." Cian and Leonid laughed. "Hello, Diana. Everything is ready. Come in, wash your hands, and come to the table. We will celebrate my son's recovery and your reinstatement. Try the turkey. My son and I tried not to overcook it. And this is Anna, my granddaughter. She's my granddaughter's favorite. She's a dog. She'll rope her father and grandfather. Do you have children? A husband?" Diana became sad. It's a complicated subject. It just so happens that there is no husband or children. and probably won't be anymore. It's a long story, and I love kids very much. The evening went very well and cordially. All the tension and anxiety vanished somewhere, and Diana felt so comfortable in this hospitable home. She learned that Leonidrano's wife had died, and he was raising Sina alone. The businessman was a one-woman man and never remarried. He was so heartfelt about it. You know, Diana, after the death of my wife Larissa, something died in me too, literally. I couldn't love anyone else. I tried a couple of times to have an affair, but it wasn't the same. Empty inside, and that's it. Only my granddaughter has melted my heart. How I love her, I cannot. Diana cautiously asked Cian, "Where is Irochka's mother? Your spouse? Out of town?" The man became serious and quietly began to tell the story, so that Anna, who was enthusiastically collecting puzzles, could not hear. "I met my wife, Victoria, when I was a student. I was studying economics at the time, and she was studying theater to be an actress. We first met at a mutual friend's birthday party. I always liked bright, bold, provocative girls. Victoria was just that. She would twist me around as she wanted. She could start flirting with my friend in front of everyone, like as a joke, but still, or not pick up the phone, just like that. Even if we were not fighting, I was wildly jealous of her, and I was head over heels in love. I was dissuaded from getting married by literally everyone. My parents' friends, acquaintances. They were turning their heads and trying to get through to me. Slavka, don't do anything stupid. Everyone knows that Victoria's a whore. She puts men in her bed in piles. All she wants is to get her own lucre. And then she leaves you without a care in the world. She's only interested in you because you're a rich man. She doesn't give a damn about ordinary guys. You'll get lost with her. What kind of wife is she? A laughing stock. But I, like a stubborn donkey, quarreled with everyone at the Diane, thinking that they were just jealous of my happiness and deliberately said nasty things. I was the one who insisted on an early wedding, you idiot. I thought it would make Victoria all mine and be a model wife. But after the wedding, I began to realize what a mistake I had made. But it was too late. Victoria absolutely did not want to change. She still behaved unbearable. She could disappear with friends until morning in a nightclub, and she did not care that I was nervous and worried. She was a disgusting cook. She did nothing around the house, too. I tried to get her a job, but she did not even master the position of the secretary, all past his ears, and soon had to put it away. But she really was a born actress. So cleverly lied and twisted. When she needed something, like a vixen walking in circles, just a goody, but as soon as you get what you want, that's it. Immediately went on the old riotous life. This constant nerve-wracking wore me out. After all, business is tough and complicated, and I want to rest at least at home in peace and quiet. But the worst nightmare began when she became pregnant. I am a fool. I was glad that finally there will be a baby. My wife will settle down. Her maternal instinct will kick in, and our lives finally get better. But no, Victoria was still throwing tantrums, went out with friends, and even managed to drink alcohol. We quarreled terribly, and after giving birth, she went off the chain, left Anna, and flew abroad with some visiting gentlemen. It was such a shock and shame for me. I did not even want to live, and after all, with his own hands, he took this snake on his chest. The truth they say, love is blind. Leonid intervened in the conversation. That's when I couldn't stand it. It was painful to watch my son suffer. So I took away her mother's rights and helped Slava divorce this scoundrel. Better to have no mother at all than with such a wretch. So we live together, cherish, and nurture our princess. Although, of course, no matter how good the nanny is, and no matter how much love they give her, and her granddaughter does not have enough of a mother, Diane shook her head and opened up a little too. Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought only men were scoundrels. It's no fun for me either. I once saved a guy on the street just like your son, and he made a date with me, and he turned out to be rich. I loved him so much it was crazy. He swore it too. But as soon as I realized I was pregnant, Oliver told me to get rid of the baby because he had a fiancée. I thought I was going to die of humiliation. We broke up. I refused to have an abortion, but I guess I lost the baby because of my nerves. Not only that, but it was complicated, and now I can hardly ever have children. Cian said thoughtfully, I'm sorry. Now I understand why you were so wary when I invited you to dinner. You don't have to worry. No one will ever hurt you in this house. On the contrary, you're always welcome. Tell you what, let's all go set off some fireworks together. I bought this for a chance. Anna loves it. From that day on, Diana began to visit them more and more often. The woman became very good friends with Anna. They talked for a long time, played together or cooked something. They also bought thread and learned to knit toys, something her grandmother had taught her back in the day. Cian had been in love with Diana for a long time, from the first second he saw her, but he didn't show it. He was very afraid of hurting her. After all, she was already hurt. What if she took it the wrong way? What if she took it the wrong way? What if she was offended? Diana liked Charlie a lot, too. But she hid her feelings deep down in the most secret corner of her soul, afraid that if she opened up, she would be hurt again, stabbed in the back. The traumatic experience of her former relationships prevented her from building new ones. It was Diana's birthday. She never celebrated it at all, not even as a child, because her grandmother had no money or opportunity for it, and she and Oliver had broken up earlier. Even at the substation, she tried not to advertise her birthday. She didn't want to draw undue attention to herself. For her, it was just an ordinary day, nothing more. It was her day off. It was nauseating to sit at home alone. So she baked gingerbread cookies and went to visit the Vasalivers. They had agreed on it the day before, and she missed Irishka and Charlie terribly. What was her surprise when she was greeted on the doorstep by the whole household, with a huge bouquet of flowers and balloons, and shouted in unison, "Happy birthday, congratulations." Diana was moved to tears. She was so pleased. How had they found out? No one had ever congratulated her like that. But that wasn't all of the surprises. There was a fancy table laid out in the living room, and there were all sorts of things there. Anna approached the woman, and with a mysterious look presented her with a framed picture. "It's my present. Take it, Aunt Diana. I drew it myself." The drawing showed beautiful nature, bright sunshine, and 4 little people. The girl began to explain. "That's my grandfather with the mustache. In the red jacket is the most handsome. That's my daddy. That's me in the dress. And that's you. I would love for you to live with us and be my mom." "You are so interesting. You are very kind and good." Diana was moved to tears, hugged the girl, and whispered, "Thank you, my baby girl. I would really like you to be my daughter, too." Cian walked over to the woman, opened a small box of scarlet. There was a very beautiful engagement ring and said, "That's right, Diana. It's up to me. I have been in love with you for a long time. Since the moment I opened my eyes and saw a beautiful angel of unearthly beauty in front of me. I was afraid to tell you about my feelings so as not to hurt and not to offend. But now on your birthday, I have decided, after all, Diana, marry me. You are a sweet and charming woman, the kind of wife one can only dream of. Anna loves you very much, too." "Well, do you agree?" Leonid also joined the conversation. "For my part, I would be only too happy to have a daughter-in-law like you. I understand it's hard for you to make up your mind, because you've been hurt badly before, but don't worry, we'll stand up for you as a family." Diana burst into tears, no longer holding back her emotions, and answered sincerely, "My dears, my good ones, I loved you all so much. You really replaced the family I never had. Charlie, I agree. Anna, my daughter, I will love you as my own. Even more, you are such a wonderful child. Let me give you all a hug." A joyful scene uncorked a rattling bottle of champagne and proclaimed, "Let's all raise our glasses. We're having a double celebration today. Here's to you, birthday girl. Now all your days will be only happy, I promise." Bottoms up. Diane's birthday went wonderfully. It was the best birthday party Diane had ever had. The family had a delicious lunch, then played tennis, made a huge picture out of puzzles, had fun and fooled around. Even the old-timers at work didn't recognize Diana. She had changed so much. Her eye burned. Her charming smile never left her face. The woman was literally dyed with happiness. Now all her conversations were about her daughter, about her husband. Like everyone else's, she finally felt like a full-fledged woman, not a flawed, empty shell. Anna went to first grade. How much fuss and preparation there was. Diana tried, braided her intricate hair, repeated with the girl the verses she had learned for the rule of speech, corrected her uniform, and spun around all morning. Charlie finished his wife's carefully prepared breakfast, lingered over this picture, and thanked the heavens for sending him at last such a beautiful and loving wife and mother for Irochka. He remembered his ex-girlfriend with a shudder. It was unclear why he had suffered so much with her and why he loved her. Charlie and Diana lived very amicably, even if there was a small argument. The woman always smoothed it out, just walked up to her husband, hugged him, and whispered, "That's enough, I love you." This magical phrase had an instant effect on the spouse. Immediately disappeared all resentment and misunderstanding. He smiled and melted. During the fall break, Anna had asked her parents to take her to the water park, and they decided to reward her for her good grades. Sean, of course, grumbled a little. How do you imagine? A grown-up, respectable man and splashing with the kids I do not even know. It's some kind of childish... But Diana talked him into it. "So, honey, let's go. I've never been there myself. Let's relax. Let's get away from our worries. Let's feel like children again. Anna will be happy. It's so important to her that we spend time with her." The vacation was wonderful. They had fun, swam in the pool, drank milkshakes, and Anna went down the slide screaming and squealing. But in the evening, Diana suddenly felt sick. She was shaking, had some kind of rash, and was throwing up a lot. She, like a doctor, reblogged the symptoms in her head and didn't understand anything. Allergies. But to what? She hadn't eaten anything exotic, had she? And the nausea doesn't fit here, and how my head hurts. What's the matter? A worried Charlie would not leave his wife, offering her hot tea and mineral water. Not knowing how to help her, he wailed. And I said, forget it, this water park. It would be better to go to the circus or on amusement rides. It's the chlorinated water. We're going to the doctor tomorrow. I don't like all this. I'm worried about you. Diana smiled wryly. Honey! I'm a doctor. Don't be ridiculous. All right, you talked me into it. I'll consult with my colleagues. What kind of sickness is overtaking me? I'll take tests just in case. The next day, the woman really decided to be examined and had a blood test. Strangely enough, everything was normal. But her malaise was only getting worse. Diane, who did not understand anything, decided to consult a professor she knew, who examined her, listened to her attentively, and stated, "Yes, my little dove, two to you, treating others and not noticing the obvious things in yourself. You do not have any disease, you're just pregnant. Go to the gynecologist, have an ultrasound. I think everything will be confirmed. I'm sure 100%. Diana only smirked sadly. Come on, it's impossible. Even back then, after the miscarriage, my doctor told me that there would be no more children. I had accepted it a long time ago, so it's definitely not a pregnancy. He gave her a sly look. I bet you a huge chocolate bar that I'm right. I've been practicing this for years. Dumbfounded by this statement, the woman decided to double-check and went to the gynecologist. She almost fell off her stool when the pregnancy was confirmed. On the one hand, this is great happiness. We can say miracle. because she had long considered herself infertile. But on the other hand, she was immediately filled with bad memories. How could she tell Charlie about it? What if it turned out the way it had with Oliver back then? Maybe he didn't want children at all. He already had Anna. He loved her. Why would he want another child? Diane was stubbornly silent, tortured herself, quietly cried into her pillow at night, and did not know what to do. It seemed to her that if she told him about the pregnancy, her long-suffering happiness would crumble right away. Charlie was exhausted too, and was taking his wife's inadequate behavior personally. She must have fallen out of love with me, and is only living with me so as not to offend Anna. She became taciturn and gloomy, turning away at night and crying, and only the experienced Leonid solved everything in one fell swoop, quite by accident. At breakfast, Anna ate and went to get ready for school, and the older man looked at his daughter-in-law intently and asked her forehead, "How long are you going to keep quiet, Diana? Till your stomach grows bigger than your nose. Charlie's already worried, sick and tired of you falling out of love with him. What are you afraid of? Tell everyone, or I will. I've known what's wrong with you for a long time." The frightened woman went pale as chalk and whispered, "Well, now that you've figured it out, I have to confess. I'm 3 months pregnant. I'm just so scared. What if Charlie doesn't want another baby? He's got Anna. I went through the same thing once before. My fiancé left me when he found out I was pregnant, and then I had a miscarriage. I just can't stand it if it happens again. I'm always waiting for a catch." And she couldn't stand it and cried, like a baby bursting into tears. Cian jumped up in his chair. "Diane, silly sweetheart, what are you imagining? I'm happy. I'm going to have a baby. It's crazy. Anna, come here. I've got news for you. You're going to have a little brother or sister." The girl dropped her briefcase and screamed, "Hooray! I've wanted a sister for so long. I'm going to tell everyone at school." Diane exhaled and finally smiled. "Phew. Finally I'm going to have some pickles. Hand me that jar over there." And she gorged herself on the pickles with gusto and crunched up with relish. Cian insisted that his wife take light duty jobs during pregnancy, so now she didn't go on calls, only filled out forms and counseled patients. Pregnancy was going well. Not like the last time. Charlie surrounded her with so much care and love, personally dropping her off and picking her up from work. They took many leisurely walks in the park, massaging her lower back and swollen feet. Anna stroked her rounded belly and talked to her little sister. She had already thought of a name for her. Oksana. Everyone was nervous before the birth. But it was Diane herself who panicked the most. Her memories of the previous miscarriage were too vivid and painful. So when they took her to the maternity hospital with contractions, she was hysterical, screaming and pestering the entire medical staff with one single question: "What's wrong with my baby?" She only calmed down when they attached the baby to her breast. She had never been happier. This little squeaking lump was so dear to her that no riches in the world could compare with it. The labor had been a long and difficult one, and poor Cian had gone gray, waiting in the corridor for the result. It seemed like an eternity had passed, and Diana had still not given birth. Finally, a cheerful nurse came out and told him, "All right, Daddy. Calm down. Everything is all right with your wife and your daughter. Weight 3,800 and height, I'll tell you. Here, exactly 48 centimeters. Congratulations. Now go home. Tomorrow you'll come and visit. We have a regime. Those are the rules." All evening, the happy father and son drank cognac and celebrated the appearance of a new member of the family. Leonid uttered in his inebriation, "You see, son, there was no fortune but misfortune helped. If it wasn't for that hooligan and Justin, you never would have met Diana. I guess it was fate." Cian agreed. "It's true, Dad. Only with her I felt like a real man, the head of a big and friendly family. I know that they always wait for me at home, love and care. That's so great. 3 years passed. The little girl grew up, pleased her parents. Anna was happy to babysit her, and Charlie couldn't wait to see his little girl. One hot summer day, the family decided to go to the river to let the children splash and sunbathe. They loved to vacation at a private, expensive tourist base. Lesnaya Skanska, Oksana, and Iriska were bouncing merrily on the air mattress, and Diana and Charlie were sunbathing on deck chairs, sipping cocktails and keeping an eye on the kids. A gruff janitor walked along the beach, collecting bottles and trash in a bag. As she approached the bar, Diana caught a glimpse of him. Something subtly familiar about his features. She wondered, where could I have seen this man? God, I can't remember. The spouse replied, what if it's just another one of your patients? How many of them have passed through your hands over the years? As the janitor walked past them in the opposite direction, he also stared at Diana, and then he couldn't stand it and asked, young lady, do you have a smoke? The voice. She remembered his voice. It was Oliver. It was unbelievable. Diane was a little excited. Oliver, is that you? That's amazing. What happened to you? Why are you working as a janitor? What about the millions and mountains of wealth? Where's that wife of yours you're not ashamed to show your face with? The man became terribly uncomfortable, pulled his cap down over his eyes and muttered, I am deeply sorry for you, Diana. After you and I broke up, everything went wrong in my life. I married her on my own head, and she was a viper. She squeezed everything out of me and left me to take over my accounts. How did she do it? I do not understand. That's how I ended up naked as a falcon. I got drunk with grief, so I ended up as a janitor. And you're looking good, aren't you? Your kids. What about our baby? Diana replied wryly. And my husband and my children, but they have nothing to do with you. I don't want to talk to you. Go away. Oliver wasn't far behind. Listen, Diana, give me some money for a beer. I see you're not poor. The woman took out her purse and tossed him exactly the amount he left her as a handout. She added, take it. I owe you one. Have a nice day. A worried Scene approached his wife, hugged her gently and asked, is everything all right, my love? Is this someone you know? Diana smirked. No, he's just a janitor. He's mistaken. Here he was begging for beer. I gave him some. Do you mind? Charlie just waved his hand. Well, that's all right. Forget it. And said sharply to Oliver, what more do you want? Go away. Don't interfere with my family's rest, or I'll call the guards. A security guard did come running in at the noise and yelled at the janitor, what are you doing here, you big lug? Don't let these decent people get in the way. Get out there and sweep the area, or you'll get fired. Oliver turned around, looked at Diane angrily, and staggered away ashamed. He was strangled by anger and resentment, and everything inside was bubbling. Oliver was tearing and tearing. How she humiliated me. She threw the money like a handout, and she remembered the bit. She counted out exactly how much I had left her. Look, an ordinary doctor, and managed to get another rich man as a husband. So many years have passed, and she still bloomed, and smells beautiful as ever. I'm a fool. I should have listened to my father then, and married Dianka, and now what? Where are my millions? They've disappeared along with Ilona. I'm going for a beer. My nerves are shot to hell. The man bought some beer, some Taranka, and went to drown his sorrows. That's all he had left. It never dawned on him that he had paid for his vile and despicable act. And it was no accident at all, but a pattern. And Diane and Charlie toweled their babies, warmed them, and fed them like galshats with goodies. The woman cradled her treasure. Oksana stroked Anna's wet hair, watched lovingly as Charlie carefully cares for the children, and understood that she was the happiest woman in Diana. After all, she had the most important thing, a loving family. She didn't feel pity for him at all. Nothing inside her trembled. She understood that he got exactly what he deserved. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Subscribe to the channel. Like it, write comments if you like the story, and see you on the channel.